Hey there, what's going on, my friends? This is your boy Turgon coming at you with a new video today, loading up my game here. What are we talking about? Well, it's the end of the season, and I want to walk through some of the kind of the tools that I've been wearing on my tool belt to be able to um, counter enemies depending on what you're fighting. So right now I'm kind of using a blend. I'm using like four commanders to fight good side, and I'm using four commanders primarily to fight evil. Certainly there are different times, if needed, I could swap things out. I want to show you the commanders and the builds and what I use them for. I want to show you my barracks and show you the number of units that I have and how I'm kind of splitting my my barracks up so that you can see how I'm using my troops for various situations. What I'm keeping on reserve, what's going on in my mind as I'm conscripting new units to keep uh, my barracks balanced. Now, uh, here's the situation. I mean, really, the season is pretty well over. We're just waiting for it to end. We have the countdown. Here's my barracks. It's pretty much full, and I'll walk you through this part first rather than last because as you see my commanders, it may make more sense. So essentially, I'm going to go from right to left. Yeah, I have 900 knights. What the heck am I using knights for? I'm only using knights right now for my Aragorn 2, my T2 Aragorn. And he, you'll see, is loaded up with lots of burn protection for knights. So I basically just use him to fight those pesky alchemist led high burn damage dealing Witch King. Ostensibly, I could use this also to counter whale denethors because we know so many of them are out there. Now, coming a little bit farther over, I have about 6,500 marksmen and 6,500 rangers available. T2 units. These complement some of my other builds. I use the rangers to go with my Dunedain build for Isildur. I use the marksmen for Elrond as well as for Gilgalad because they all use the same elven units. Coming over here a little bit more, you see I've got 6,500 Dunedain to go along with my 6,500 Rangers. Uh, you probably guessed it, I'm using about 3,300 Rangers and Dunedain in my build for Isildur. So you can wipe them three times, and I don't care. I'll just field them. I'll just fill them back up and send them right back out there. And that's kind of how I think with all my commanders. So you'll see I have 88,000 Guardians, 8,000 Guards of the Tower, 8,500 thereabouts. Those guys are going on Gimli right now as part of my anti-Gundabad T4 fighting scheme because Good and Bad T4 is absolutely massacre uh, when you have both melee and archers in your troop composition. So what I do is a lot of times just throw Gimli at these guys with the Guardians and the Guards of the Tower and a couple hundred Heralds to round out the group, all melee and just go let the DD damage do its thing. And yeah, it doesn't really win very often, but it hurts them real bad, or at least a little bit. And then the next commander can come in and finish them off or do some more damage or whatever the case may be. So since I'm using also about 3,300 uh, of each of those types in the Gimli army. So I have about three or even maybe even four reloads for Gimli right now, and I do that because he hasn't been faring as well as a Isildur. So a Isildur has been more effective for me, so I don't need quite as many units in reserve. Since my Gimli has been getting kind of massacred more often than not, I like to keep a few extra of the units around so I can keep feeling them because he's not been as strong as a Isildur. And they're both at level 45. You'll see that when I do a review of my commanders. 9,000 cataphracts. I have Cavaliers. coming up about 1,000 on reserve, 600 marshals in reserve. Those are for my Theoden. Pretty much only. I only use them on Theoden. I have more cataphracts because I use cataphracts both on Theoden as well as on Faramir. And I'll show you my Faramir build in a little bit. The cataphracts on Faramir, it's a man unit. They're my tanky melee unit up front that protects my archers, the Wozis, and the sharpshooters in the back. 25, I think it's 2,700 sharpshooters, 2,700 Wozis, and 700 cataphracts up front. Is what I'm using right now. It's pretty effective as long as you don't madden him. Because if you madden him, then I just blow myself up. It's pretty hilarious. I have some reports I'll show you of that. Let's see. What else do I got? What else do I got in here? Yeah, heralds. Lots and lots of heralds because I use them in pretty much all my armies. 12,000 heralds in reserve. I use 2,500 heralds with Gilgalad. I use 2,500 heralds with Elrond. I use heralds with Gimli. I use heralds with my Dunedain build for Isildur, so you can take advantage of that R5 buff with elves in your group. But you need all melee to face this good to bad T4. So I use heralds with the Dunedain and the Rangers for Isildur. And you'll see that in a little bit. I got eagles for Galadriel. I can do a lot of things with this barracks. Coming now to the commanders, you're like, Turgon, how the heck can you do all of these things with all these commanders with that barracks? Well, my primary commander is Elrond, and I think he's highly versatile. He's not like if you're looking for one commander to rule them all, then Elrond is not that commander. I don't think that commander really exists, to be honest. But he is very highly effective, both versus good as well as evil. On him, I got the Elven White Knife with Might of Elves, Resistance Protection, High Elf Hallberg for the extra poison, burn, focus damage resistance, Aegis on the Hunter's Guides to protect him from blowing himself up, and Carved Dragon Tooth with Tactical Mark, so he's got Pursuit on top of all that stuff. From a skill build perspective, right now I have him in fighting evil mode. Essentially what I do to swap him out for his good mode is keep all this except for take these 7 of these 8 points and throw them into his healing versus good side. So then it takes a little bit longer for you to burn through his heralds, and the longer the heralds stay up, usually the more damage they soak, which means taking less damage in the back on the ranged, which means more damage output from them. It's very nuanced. It's not a significant amount of healing, and it probably doesn't make a significant difference in the battle. But I don't really find anywhere else valuable to put it when you're fighting good. You don't need coalition because you've got Convener. I don't see any reason to double up on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I should test that. Maybe I will. But this is how I'm running versus evil right now. So he gets the extra uh, focus, burn, poison damage that stacks with high elf Allberg, and Champion of the Light for the extra damage versus Trolls Urukai and Orcs. On Theoden, so he's my gold commander, Elrond. Everything's gold on him. You won't see that on any of my other commanders. I do hybrid builds for everything. For Theoden, I'm running him. I got the quilted armor with melee vigor. You might have been expecting focus protection here, but I go with the melee vigor. Unless I'm fighting a Galadriel, I don't see a reason to do focus protection. Or again, because I'm using him versus good. For Elrond, I'll use versus good and versus evil, but for Theoden, I primarily prefer to fight good with him. I think he's more effective. He can fight evil, throw a superior Hallberg with fire protection on him, and he'll go. He'll be able to do okay versus Witch King. You can swap the melee vigor on quilted armor over to the focus protection and send him up against Sauron, and he'll do pretty well. But by and large, I don't think he's super great against evil. Evil have a lot of anti-cavalry stuff going on, in my opinion. So I don't love him versus evil, but I'm also not a Theoden main. Some Theoden main people may disagree with me, and you are probably smarter than me because I don't use Theoden main. He's probably this season my third or fourth commander, and this is the first season I've used him in this capacity really ever. So definitely would be interested in your thoughts and feedback in the comment section. Okay, Gil-galad. all my gear for Gil-galad went to Elrond, so I've just put him together with some scraps. The only thing that got retained was his Silver Harper Rivendell. I preferred to keep that on him and put the Dragon Tooth on Elrond. I could probably flip it, but I like it this way. He gets a Mirkwood Bow with Elven Strength. That's 9%. That stacks on top of this 8% for 17% damage dealt to elves, which is significant. I gave him the Rager's Shroud because I use him with a lot of archers. The archers are his primary damage dealer, so the extra attack to range is good. The defense to range is okay for mitigating physical damage, but um, really getting that superior hauberk, I'm sorry, the high elf hauberk with the protection versus focus, burn, and poison damage. I'm going to put that back on him, and I'm going to probably put this mithril coat on Elrond next season. But I need one of those elven hammers to break this up to get the pieces to max upgrade this, and then I'll shift this over to Gil-galad, and my Gil-galad I think will be more effective again. The helmet right now I'm using a Trapper's Hood again, going for more ranged attack, and I just figure Hysteria Madness, why not? I may look to do something different if I could ever get my little hands on another one of these guys and max them out. The Aegis on Gil-galad is just as important as it is on Elrond. I just like Elrond better overall as a commander right now. And as you can see, I'm very close to getting this maxed, and I can then start working on a second one, which will be super. From a skill perspective, I skipped Theoden skills. I'll come back to that in a second. From a skill perspective, I mean, right now, basically, I'm just using him up against good, um, because the evil people I'm fighting on this server have solved Gil-galad. They all have either running good to bad T4s, which slaughter his melee ranged combo, or they're running something with pursuit that cuts through kingly kin like a warm knife through butter. You can move the points from Kinley Kin into the White Council tree and mitigate, some of that focus, burn, poison damage, or boost your damage output to orcs, urukai, and trolls. But for right now, since I'm fighting good side predominantly, I just have him kind of in more of an anti-DD kind of capacity. If I got him to level 46, I would put Icicle up to 6, take these 2 points, reroute them over. So I could do 6 and 3 and Dazzle for more of an anti-DD build. So that's what's going on with my Gil-galad, and I have Theoden here. Here's his skills. It's very straightforward. These are the ones you want to max out. You need to max out this and this, and then this, and then this and this, and then finally here. If you have points more after that, you can do whatever you want, and I don't think it honestly makes a difference. Isildur. This will be becoming this next season. I'll be using an Elven Hammer for that. I don't have Frenzy Hammer, so one of these days I will, and I'll continue working to max this for that day. Superior Hauberk right now, fire protection. I like this for the might and the defense to army. Um, Once I get a fire protect, the protection for fire, focus, poison on the Ranger's Shroud and get this maxed out again after I break it, that'll go on him. But for now, it's going to be this, especially versus evil. I love the Ancient Numenorian Helm on him. It boosts both your HP on men as well as your defense, so it stacks really nicely. 15 defense from this, 15 defense from this, mitigates a lot of physical damage. Plus, you get the extra HP, 3 here for your men, and you get 3 HP army, so that stacks as well. And I use the Bane at Works because I'm predominantly using him Dunedain build to fight Sunins. Skill perspective, since it's Dunedain build, you of course want 5 out of 5 here. Max out this guy for the follow-up. It's really huge. 1 point in here just to get the extra 2 attack for men, and then the extra a little bit of defense. Champion of the Light versus Evil. It's really, really good for fighting the Orcs, Uruk-hai, and Trolls. Extra 28% damage for them. Stack that with, well, it doesn't necessarily stack. So this is increasing your damage versus Orcs, Uruk-hai, and Trolls, whereas Bane of Orcs is just automatically applying, X amount more damage to them. It's basically kind of like the same thing, but it's doing it 2 different ways. And then Great King, of course, you want this. So this is how I'm using Isildur. Gimli, pretty standard. You got his unique. Focus protection, I'm using him pretty much. I'm trying to hunt Sauron's with him. There ain't too many here, so that's why he's been losing. Probably I could put this the superior hallmark on him and it would be better, but right now it's on my A2. The brutal helmet I like for the melee vigor and the extra HP to melee, and stack that with the extra HP from the Heath lane. Bane of Orcs on him, pretty basic. His skill build, pretty basic. 2 and 1, max this, easy, good to go. Galadriel I'm just using with Eagles, your standard. She got Smite on the Carver, Melee Vigor, Stun Immunity, stuff that's going to give her focus, a little more heal. It's not a super special Galadriel, but it's an extra tool in your tool belt versus good. Or if you're having a hard time versus you just need something to soften up a Kyrune or a Khaldun, she'll do the trick. And her skill build is also really, really straightforward. Just max these guys out. At this point, if I got more points than her, I'll put them in Lady Elorian to boost up her healing a little bit more, maybe something in Parting Gift as well. Last two, we got A2. Like I said, I run him night build, 100% for, burn protection because of the superior hauberk, and then the full helm with blinding barrier. And I threw the sustain on him for some extra heals and focus. Um, from a skill perspective, it's straightforward. It's very much like Gimli, max this, and this. 6 in here, 1 in there. I could take this down to 14 and put a 7th in here. It really doesn't. It's pretty, the returns are it's either way. You can go either way. It doesn't really make a difference. And finally, we go with Faramir. I'm going with the Mirkwood bow on him. Ranged might I have is unique. Working on getting that maxed out. Really, really strong unique. Best probably T1 unique on the good side of the game. Trapper's Hood with Hysteria. Boost the range damage, boost the rain damage, boost the rain damage, boost the range damage. And Hunter's Mark with Pursuit, so then you don't need to put points into the skill he has for that. And Guide, the Foresight, you can save those 7 points, put in something else. I like running everything max in air. I like maxing the Guide, obviously. It stacks with his unique. Armed Escort's good ability, and then the Rangers for the extra might and the initiative. He's level 43. If I had him at 50, then I would probably throw the extra 7 points into rush here, or move that over to flanking if I'm fighting an enemy with a lot of range. So there's some versatility there as well. All right, that concludes the video. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, please leave it in the comment section below. Reach out to me in Gamer on Discord. If you know me, you know me. If you don't, I apologize for inviting you. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate your time and I hope the rest of your day treats you well. Cheers.